In recent years in medicine and even on this show, we've talked about the importance of gut health. Having a healthy gut is essential to fighting off chronic disease. And when it's not healthy, it can contribute to a lot of other conditions. Today, we will bring in an expert to discuss.
Absolutely. Dr. Ariane Missimer, she is joining us now, the founder of the Movement Paradigm, joining us now from Pennsylvania. Great to have you. How are you?
I'm great.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
My goodness, inflammation seems to be one of those things that is just, like speaking of pandemics, here in America, my goodness, inflammation seems to be running amok. Tell us what inflammation is and the differences between the types of inflammation.
Sure. So 90% of all chronic health conditions are associated with inflammation. I think that's really important because anything from eczema or psoriasis to even things like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's are all linked to that. But there's acute inflammation, which we want to think of that happens within minutes to even days. And then there's also chronic inflammation, which is when it can become more systemic or we lose tolerance to and we become less resilient. When it's acute, we want to think of this as a really positive thing. It's a natural defense and repair mechanism. But unfortunately, because of different inflammatory triggers, it can stay with us and cause a lot of health conditions.
Yeah, can we talk about what some of those triggers are? I think, for many folks, we're still kind of getting an understanding of what inflammation is. So let's talk about these 5 triggers you wanted to discuss in particular. Very curious.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the 5 triggers, the first one is food, and that is the easiest one that we can all control. So that could be anything from exploring gluten and dairy and corn and soy and so many other potential foods that could be really inflammatory for you. Then there are bugs. So that falls into the category of parasites. That could be something that you've gotten when you traveled, or that could be a tick, for example. But things like that can lie dormant and cause persistent inflammation. Then you have toxins, which could be things that we're exposed to all of the time. So that could be something like herbicides and pesticides that are everywhere, or cleaning chemicals or skincare. Mm-hmm. And then it could also be things like our internal toxins, like gut infections.
Yeah, I think the food in particular is a tough one because it seems like just all of the different chains that are out there and all of the different aisles in the grocery store are filled with pitfalls that could have you falling into an inflammation issue.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's, like I said, the easiest one to control. Yeah. But we also have trauma, which is anything from stress. So that is your emotional trauma or physical trauma. And we also have hormones that can cause inflammation too. So as we get older and we have low testosterone or estrogen, that can also be a contributing factor.
Amy, I'm enjoying this conversation because you're reminding me it's never just one thing. Often when you talk about health, it's kind of a combination of factors and influences. So it's good for me to remember that even things like stress or depression can affect inflammation in your body. On a practical note, may we go back to diet for a moment? Because I know both my co-host and I had gone gluten-free for quite a while because of the issue of inflammation. What are some of the real simple, easy choices we can make to reduce inflammation today in our lives?
Sure. So I think one easy one would be to explore even gluten and dairy. How you would do that would be eliminate it from your diet for 3 weeks. So that means not even a bite of it because it stays in your system that long. And then at the end of that 3 weeks, reintroduce it. So you would introduce one food and see how that influences your symptoms. So does that cause pain or joint stiffness or so on, or skin issues? Mm-hmm. Then you would move to the next food.
Interesting. And it's worth noting, while the inflammation can be affected by your stress, the gut can also impact your mood and your anxiety and your depression as well.
Yes, and that's via our gut-brain connection. So we think of the gut as our second brain. So the bacteria in the gut is actually what contributes to these neurotransmitters or messengers that contribute to mood and depression and anxiety. So really, really powerful to think of it from a mental health perspective too.
Well, it's great stuff.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a great conversation. We're going to point people to your website where they can get more information.
Great. That's www.themovementparadigm.com.
She's got it. It's great having you. Doctor, thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you so much.
themovementparadigm.com. It's right there on your screen. You can also follow the doctor on social. She's all over the place. She's got an Instagram. She's got a TikTok. She's everywhere. And the Movement Paradigm and PR Media, a proud sponsor of the Morning Blend.